Claudia Webbe.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The cost of living crisis is not really a cost of living crisis. In reality, it's a cost of greed crisis. It's greedflation driven by a lack of political interest in protecting ordinary people. And of course, as with any crisis, it's the most vulnerable in our society who suffer most. And there are few more vulnerable and more unsupported in our society than those with a disability. Disabled people are, of course, no strangers to poverty and crisis. Under 13 years of Tory government, they have faced constant cuts and conscious cruelty at every turn, sharpened by punitive and pointless assessment regimes, conditionality and sanctions. We live under a government that responded to the UK's mass crisis of debt and hunger by suggesting people should work more hours or take a second job to help with their finances. But many disabled people face huge challenges to work a single job, let alone a second, and are even harder hit by soaring costs of energy, fuel and other essentials. As the Honourable Member for Motherwell and Wishaw has highlighted, according to research by disability charity Scope, disabled households in the poorest 5th percentile spend twice as much of their household budget on energy bills, are twice as likely to have a cold house, and are 3 times more likely to be unable to afford food. The Heat or Eat scandal is a mark of disgrace on this country, not least because people cannot afford to do either, but disabled people suffer the worst of it, and it shames us as a nation. Again and again, for well over a decade now, the heaviest burden is placed on the shoulders of those least able to pay, while the wealth of the rich piles up. And in a constituency like mine in Leicester East, where we suffer some of the worst health and lowest incomes in the country, the evils of our unequal system hit especially hard. In my constituency, far more children, 37% compared to 26% nationally, live in a family with at least one disabled member than those with none, piling yet more hunger, ill health, stigma and misery on children in a country that is already failing them. The median annual wage for workers in Leicester East is £19,960, compared to an average of £25,837 in the East Midlands and an average of £27,756 in the rest of the UK. The level of poverty in my constituency is stark. My community is hurting. The level of suffering is deep. I am witnessing this daily. It's painful. Yet the Conservatives continue to offer, at best, a sticking plaster for the grievous wounds they inflict on the poor and vulnerable. In 2017, the United Nations has condemned the UK's government treatment of disabled people as a human catastrophe, and it has only grown worse since then. This abuse and abandonment of our disabled people is an international disgrace. It's a stain on the UK's standing amongst nations. Until this cruelty toward disabled people and all our millions of poor and vulnerable citizens is reversed, the UK cannot consider itself a civilised nation. And every day's delay is putting it right means more lives lost and ruined. The government needs to tackle prices and address the inequality of extra costs that disabled people face, work towards the redistribution of wealth, and establish a welfare system that provides an adequate level of support for disabled people. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we need radical transformational change. Thank you.